and 2 accessory holes. So we are talking about the basic concept, sexual reproduction code hoy, flower. What is a flower? Modified condensed shoot. A flower has 4 holes. Out of these 4 holes, 2 of them are essential and 2 of them are accessory. When we are talking about the 4 holes, what are the 4 holes of a flower? Calyx, corolla, androecium, aru gynoecium, right? So, tar bitor essential kun kita, accessory kun kita. Before talking about that, we have to know the meaning of accessory. Accessory or essential, it is meaning ki. Essential means is very, very essential, ekdom lagi boye. Accessory mane ki, helping, right? So out of calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium, 2 of them are essential, lagi boye, baki kita kintu helping. So calyx and corolla, those are considered as key accessory holes, aru androecium and gynoecium are considered as essential holes, right? So our flower is made up of 4 holes, and the name of the 4 holes, calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. Talking about a flower, just to have a rough idea, we can talk about our structure like this. A rough diagram. Okay. So if you're talking about an angiospermic flower, it has 4 holes. Now, the point again, what do you understand by the word hole? Hole mane ki? Collection. Collection. Part buli kwat ke, a hole is a collection. So we have 4 holes. Tamane androecium is a collection of something. Gynoecium is a collection of something. Similarly, calyx and corolla is a collection of something, right? Whenever we talk about calyx, individual member of calyx is called as sepals. Yes or no? Eto ki hoy? Calyx is a group hoy. Kihor group? Sepals or group, right? Corolla, petals, right? Androecium, stamen ne carpel? Stamen, ariate, carpel. What is the other name for carpel? Pistil. Very good. Right? So, whenever we are talking about this, etu, petal, sepal, right? This is the stamen and this would be the carpel, a rough diagram of a flower, right? So, ekhini to buzi palo. We have this part also. What is this part called as? It is called as thalamus or receptacle. So, thalamus or receptacle kami in just one line ami keneke jano, the seat of a flower, right? Not a very scientific definition, but we understand jot flower gute parts kini bohi thake tak ami ki boli kom thalamus, and obviously it is the modified shoot portion of the plant, right? Okay. So ekhini loke to bujabo laga eku nai. So in this chapter, calyx and corolla, obviously we are not going to study because this is something that is dealt in morphology. From reproduction point of view, obviously this and this is important, so we'll be starting with the first one, right? So next likha stamen boli likha asan. A stamen is made up of how many parts? 2 parts. Ki ki asile? Anther, filament, right? Sometimes we might use another word that is called as connective, right? Anther, filament, and connective. What is a connective? Anther or filament or june connects kori rakhe. Those group of tissues is called as connective, right? Now, when we talk about a stamen, a new word, stamen or microsporophyll. In this chapter, we'll come across certain words like microsporophyle, megasporophyle, microsporogenesis, megasporogenesis, microspore or megaspore. These are some of the words that we have to study. First, come across this word called as microsporophyle. Now we understand what is a microsporophyll, nothing but a stamen. Right? The male part, but stamen or arveda naam ki microsporophyll. Similarly, the female part, that would be the carpel, would be called as ki megasporophyll. Is the point clear? Right? And why is it called as microsporophyll? We should know the meaning also. Whenever we are using this word, no? Phyll mane leaf. Right? So, our microsporophyll, micro, we are talking about microspores. Microspores mane ki? Pollen grains. Right? So, microspore bearing leaf is called as a microsporophyll. Is the meaning understood? Microspore bearing leaf is called as a microsporophyll. A microspore bearing leaf is obviously the stamen. Karan ami jano, if you are talking about pollens, pollens or arveda naam ki microspore. Pollens kot thake? Anther bhitor thake. Right? Anther ki hoy? Stamen or eta part hoy. So ultimately, he spores bilak ba pollen grains bilak, he stamen ote ase, a stamen dal ki hoy, eta leaf or modification hoy, right? Next point is, stamen of microsporophyll, by it is called as a modified leaf. Modified, word to agote porisa numalke, right? Modified roots porisa, modified stems porisa na morphology. Modified mane ki? You have roots, you have modified roots. You have leaves, you have modified leaves. When is a root called as a modified root? But when is a leaf called as a modified leaf? Thik teneke ami modified stems to porisu, morphology porisan nai. Porisa no? Jeneke modified taproot system, modified adventitious root system, eblak fibrous root, fasciculated roots porisila no? So modified word to ami ketia use kore. Kiho karne lage moi ki koisu stamen ma microsporophyll is a modified leaf. Stamen dal ki hoy? Leaf hoy. Kintu modified leaf, ami leaf buli nokoi pelai ki buli kom modified leaf. Eta kuntu leafok ba ketia eta leafok modified buli koba jetia leaf tue nizor kamor bad di aru special kam koribole arambho koribo. For example, if you are talking about a root, what is the most important function of a root? Absorption. Absorption hobo ba encourage hobo matir lokot lagi thakibo, right? Apart from that, jedi tahate they start storing food. Added function korisan nai, modified, right? Thik teneke kisuman roots ok ami breeding roots buliu koisilu, right? Pneumatophore was the name given for breeding roots, right? So those roots, apart from their normal function, if they are doing a special function, that is the time when we will be using the word called as modified. Similarly, in this case also, stamen ki hoy, modified leaf. Modified kyo? Karan it is not something that will be conducting photosynthesis. Leaf or main function ki photosynthesis conduct kore, কিন্তু stamen e ki koribo? Assistant reproduction, right? So stamen carpel, eta flower jiman kita holes ase na, all the holes are nothing but modified leaf. Stamen is a modified leaf, carpel is a modified leaf, calyx, corolla, everything is a modified leaf. Is the point clear? A leaf kyo? Karan flower to kopra hoja, shootor pra ki hobo, leaves e to hobo. Right? So calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium, gute kita ki hoy? Holes hoy. So bore individual members ase, right? Aru ei gute bilakok ki buli koisu ami modified leaf. Now what we are reading is a new name for the stamen that is called as microsporophyll, right? Now whenever we talk about stamen or logot basic diagram of the stamen. এইটো কি হ'ল? I think it's understood, right? Likha hol. Since we have to study the stamen in detail, the first part that we'll be studying is anther, right? So heading koriba anther. With the word anther, two words are related, a monothecous anther and a diathecous anther. Anther, two types. Right? Monothecous anther. Mono mane ki? Single. Di mane two, right? So দুটা word বা two types of anther লিখি লোৱা. So we see two types of anther in nature, monothecous anther or dithecous anther, right? Monothecous anther jar eta lobe thakibo tak ami ki buli kom monothecous, jar duta lobe thakibo, that would be called as dithecous, right? Angiosperm point of view, most common ki, which anther is commonly found in angiosperms? Monothecous ne dithecous? Dithecous. Likhi diso no, dithecous ot ki likhiso? It is the condition that is most commonly found in angiosperms, right? So angiosperms buli kole tat bahut bilak families thake na thake. Okol to adult plant nohoy no angiosperm. Bahut bilak families thake, monocots or ketaman family thakibo, dicots or kisuman families thakibo. So most common condition in angiosperms is dithecous. That does not mean je angiosperms ot ami monothecous condition na pao. So what we have written, the monothecous is also a condition that we see in angiosperms but not very commonly seen. However, it is seen in a specific family called as Malvaceae. Right? Malvaceae example ki China rose. So malaki ketaman family porhi aisa na, Solanaceae, Fabaceae, etc. So AC word to thakile, we are talking about ki, we are talking about a family. This is something that you have studied in the living world chapter, right? Jeneke else thakile ki hobo, order, right? So suffix to saisa ami gom pam je which taxonomic category are we talking about? Taxonomic category janu no? Taxonomic hierarchy we understand, right? So AC thakile ki hoy eta family. So Malvaceae is a family of angiosperms. Kintu hetu family ami dithecous dekha pao ne monothecous? Monothecous. Understood? Next, a monothecous anther will have one lobe. In the anther, what they will be having something called as microsporangium. Have you heard the word called as sporangium? Plant kingdom or to sporangia, spores word to hunisan nai. Lower plants generally, what is the most common means of reproduction? Spores, right? Spores bilak kot thake. The house of spores is called as ki, sporangium. Is the point clear? So here we are using a word called as sporangium. So obviously we understand it is a sac that will be containing certain spores. And which type of spores? We are using the word called as microspores. Bilakot will be using two words, microspores or megaspores. Microspores would refer to the male spores or the pollen grains. Megaspores would refer to the female spores or the egg. Is the point clear? So we are talking about this is anther. Anther ki thakibo, single lobe thakibo. Lobor bhitorot ki thakibo. You have a house of spores. That house of spores would be called as ki microsporangium. So if you are talking about this one, is the point clear? Right? So, etuk, ami ki boli kom? Microsporangium. So, words bilak sabade. Ami words ki paise swason, pothomote eta word palu. Microsporophyll. Etia ki paiso? Jiam. Aru eta ki word pom? Similarly, megasporangia, megaspores, megasporophyll, etc. Right? All of agote ki porisilo? Microsporophyll. And what we have to understand, if you are talking about this word fill, we know we are talking about the leaf. Which leaf? Jehetu micro word to ase, the male part. Male part ki hoy? Stamen. Understood? If I use the word called as megasporophyll, which part are we talking about? The carpel? Yes, the female part of the carpel or the pistil. So microsporophyll is equal to ki? Stamen. Megasporophyll is equal to ki? Carpel. Right? In the microsporophyll, tamane tat ki thakibo? Spores thakibo. Spores bilak leaf tur kot thakibo. Leaf tur eta ghor thakibo. Hey ghor to kami ki boli kom? Microsporangium. Inside the microsporangium. Inside the microsporangium, ki thakibo? Yes or no? Is the concept clear? Words kita clear hoba, nohole sob confused ho jaba. Right? You ei gutei to ki boli kom? Etu to anther ase no, anther aru stamen together. Ki boli kom? Microsporophyll. Microsporophyll ot ki thakibo? Microsporangium. Microsporangium or bhitorot ki thakibo? Microspores. Right? The leaf, microsporophyll, তাৰ ভিতৰত কি থাকিব? Microsporangium, microsporangiumৰ ভিতৰত কি থাকিব? Microspores. Clear? Similarly, ইয়াতো কি থাকিব? In this case, when we are talking about this properly যদি আকো, ইয়াতে এটা sac থাকিব, ইয়াতে এটা sac থাকিব, ইয়াতে এটা sac থাকিব, ইয়াতে এটা sac থাকিব. Is the point understood? Right? So, এইটো কি? Yes or no? Microsporangium. ভিতৰত কি থাকিব? Yes? So, anther বিলাক কেনেকুৱা type? দুটা type. Monothecous anther or dithecous anther. Which condition is common in angiosperms? Dithecous anther is common in angiosperms. In a monothecous anther, lobes কেইটা থাকে? Single lobe, right? Dithecous antherot lobe কেইটা থাকিব? দুটা. Monothecous antherot microsporangium কেইটা থাকিব? এটা আৰু দুটা, right? সেইকাৰণে আমি এটা word use কৰিছো চোৱাচোন. Is the point clear? Right? Monothecous antherot microsporangium কেইটা থাকিব? Diagramতে দেখা পাইছো ন দুটা থাকিব. So দুটা থাকিলে আমি conditionটো কি বুলি কম? Bisporangiate. In this case কেইটা থাকিব? চাৰিটা. So the condition would be called as কি? Clear? So angiosperms or anther তুমি কেনেকৈ discuss কৰিবা? We'll be using the word called as the most common type of anther in angiosperms is dithecous and tetrasporangiate. Yes or no? আৰু Malvaceate কি পাওঁ? Monothecous আৰু bisporangiate. Right? So out of all the points that we have written, what is important? This point, this one, and this one. Right? Monothecous হলে কি কেইটা sporangium থাকিব? দুটা. So monothecous bisporangiate নে monothecous tetrasporangiate? So MCQ point of view, hey words কিটাৰ ওপৰত question আহিব. Right? Monothecous সদায় bisporangiate. আৰু তোমাৰ dithecous সদায় tetrasporangiate. However, we have an exception. So question is often asked on the exception also. Ekinloketu clear? So we'll go to the exception. এইটো পইণ্টৰ পৰা question কিয় আহিব পাৰে? What is the unique point about this one? Yes or no? Monothecous হলে কি হ'ব লাগে? Bisporangiate হ'ব লাগে. কিন্তু ইয়াতে monothecous কিন্তু monosporangiate. So this is the exception. So from this section that we have studied, from example point of view, you have to talk about two examples. One is Malvaceate. Right? Malvaceate কিহৰ কাৰণে পঢ়িব লাগে? কাৰণ Malvaceate is a angiosperm, কিন্তু তাত কেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ condition দেখাব? Monosporangiate. Normally কি দেখাব? Bisporangiate. And this one because of this. Right? So we are discussing the stamen part of the flower. Stamen or keita part, anther or filament. Anther, these are the things that we need to discuss in the chapter. Remaining informations about the anther, obviously in morphology chapter. Tatke besi aru details etu chapter nalage. Right? Next, some points about the filament. next again. What we are drawing is types of filament or types of anther buliও ক'ব পাৰা. এইখিনি portion আসলে তোমালোকে মৰ্ফলজিত কৰিছা, if you remember this part. এইখিনিকে মুছা গ'ল. So when we talk about the filament, it is a long slender structure of the stamen, right? Types of filament but types of anther. I mean types of anther বুলি ক'ব পাৰো, types of filament বুলি কওঁ. We have 4 conditions. Actually we have more than 4, but what we will be studying is just 4. Basifix anther, adnate, dorsifix anther, or versatile anther, or you can use the word versatile stamen, dorsifix stamen, adnate stamen, or basifix stamen, right? Based on what? এই নামবিলাক যে বেলেগ বেলেগ, it depends on what? It depends on connective dal ক'ত লাগি আছে or filamental coat lagi ase. We know whenever we talk about the stamen, it has basically 2 parts, that is the anther and the filament, and the group of tissues that joins them is obviously the connective, right? So connective to jot thakibo, based on that we have similar, I mean 4 conditions. If you're talking about basifixed, we understand that this filament is attached to the base of the anther, yes or no? Right? Filamental coat lagi ase, base of the anther. In this condition, kundu antherok tumi adnate koba when the connective is from here. Yate coat lagi ase only on the base. ইয়াতে ক'ত লাগি আছে একদম starting to bottom গোটেই কি আছে connective and ultimately it forms what? The filament. In this condition, the filament is attached to the dorsal side of the anther. Dorsal side মানে ventral or dorsal, no? Back side. Right? You have the anther to back side of ekhinte filament dal lagi ase. Jedi if it is attached to the dorsal side, it would be called as ki? It will be called as dorsifixed. Is the point clear? 18 বুজি পাইছো no? Basot lagi thakibo, uporer par lagi thakibo, or back side lagi thakibo, right? We have another condition. Out of the 4 diagrams that we have drawn, maximum question has been asked about this one. Right? Versatile stamen, if you look into this diagram and this diagram, it almost looks the same. Yato pisphale lagi ase, tato pisphale lagi ase. Kintu one point of difference is, tat ki hoise, je this filament is attached to just a single point of the anther. As a result of what? The anther will keep on moving along with the direction of the wind. Right? So, duta condition. You have this as an anther. Yate tumar filament lagi ase. Right? So when the wind comes, either the whole structure will go this side or the whole structure will go this side. If this is a condition, then we are talking about dorsifixed. Right? Yate ki hoy ase, je anther to ase, kintu just eta pointot lagi ase. Hei karone, filament dal static thaki, anther to ki koribo? Ghuri thakibo. You have this point, and what will move along with the wind is only the anther part and not the filament. In this case, ki hobo? Both the anther and the filament would move along with the wind. Is the point clear? Right? So that's the reason why I have shown the arrow marks. Now what is the point that is important is, versatile stamen is a characteristic of a specific type of flower. So this is a line that you need to study. লাগিব কিন্তু এটা পইণ্টত লাগিব সেইকাৰণে কি হ'ব তোমাৰ এন্থাৰডাল মুভ নকৰে বতাহ দিলে অকমানটো মুভ কৰিব কিন্তু বস্তুটো তোমাৰ এনেকৈ ৰাউণ্ড এন্থাৰ পাৰ্টটো ঘূৰি থাকিব ৰাইট কিন্তু ইয়াতে কি হ'ব যে দুইটা কি হ'ব যোনটো সাইডে চাই দুইটা একেলগে যাব দিস এন্থাৰ cannot be rotating like this ইয়াতে কিন্তু এন্থাৰটো ৰোটেট কৰি থাকিব পাৰিব ৰাইট এটো ব্যাক সাইডে লাগিব এটো ব্যাক সাইডে লাগিব কিন্তু কম সারফেস এৰিয়া কম কাৰ obviously this one right ইয়াতে বহুত জায়গাত লাগি আছে ইয়াতে জাস্ট এটা পইণ্টত লাগি আছে right আগতে আইডেন্টিফিকেশন অফ এন্থাৰ্স আহিছিলে কিন্তু আজিকালি নাহে নিটত হা সো এটো কোৱেশ্চন জেনাৰেলি যে ডায়াগ্ৰামস দি দিব এন্ড ইউ হ্যাভ টু আইডেন্টিফাই তেনেকে কোৱেশ্চন আহা নাই কিন্তু হাউএভাৰ এই পইণ্টটো আহে right so anemophilous flowers anemophilous hydrophilous entomophilous what are we talking about is agents of pollination right so pollination ami janu je if you are talking about cross pollination no cross pollination hobo lagile agent lagibo na lage self pollination or problem nai same flower no so cross pollination ot agents lagibo aru agents kenuka hobo pare biotic agent to hobo pare insects e loi jabo pare ba abiotic agents hobo pare rain water air etc right so junbilak plants gets pollinated by air or wind is called as anemophilous anemophily pollination by wind ami ekhini portion etu chapter te korim right and if the pollination occurs because of water that would be called as hydrophily বা hydrophilous condition flower to ki boli kom hydrophilous flower jedi pollination to air karone hoise tak ami ki boli kom anemophily condition or anemophilic condition and the flower would be anemophilous so jikono bostu eta jedi suppose tomar air pollination hobo lage so flower to air pollinated no hoy no kisman to water pollinated hoy kisman insects pollinated hoy the point is kismanor je air hoy kismanor je water e niye kismane je insects niye ki ho karne so borto eke type e hobo parile heten there should be certain conditions of the flower that would be promoting a specific type of pollination air pollinated hobo lagile that specific characteristics lagibo and what is some of the common characteristics that we are talking about maybe the flower needs to be very light jate neki hi uri jabo paribo if you are talking about entomophilous that type of pollination by insects that the flower or the pollen grains has to be sticky jate neki insector gat lagi jabo pare so protective flower or protective flowers angiospermic flowers or different characteristics ase jar karone different types of pollination hoy right? Anemophilous flowers, we understand wind by air. So if this part easily detachable from the part, তেতিয়াহ'লে কি হ'ব? Pollination easily হ'ব নহয়। এন্থাৰটো ছিঙিয়ে যাব, ছিঙি গৈ য'ত পৰিব তাত ফাটি পেলাই pollen grains বিলাক দেখোন ওলাইয়ে যাব, right? So what is the most important line? The versatile stamen is a characteristic of dash flowers. It's a characteristic of anemophilous flowers. I think it's understood, right? So ekhini loge ami ki porilu, we have just started the introduction part. When we are talking about the male part of the flower, we are talking about androecium, precisely about the stamen. Stamen consists of ki anther and filamen. Anther kuntu part important? The words monothecous or dithecous, bisporangiate, tetrasporangiate. Filament kuntu point important? Versatile. Bakhin no pohile hobo, iman eko questions nahi, right? Now we'll go to the process of formation of gametes. So jihetu sexual reproduction porisu, tetahole gamete to form koriboi lagibo, right? Whenever we are talking about gametes, kiman types of gametes lagibo? Two types of gametes lagibo. Male gamete lagibo, female gamete lagibo. So in a flower, any idea where will you find the male gamete? Male gamete kod pam, male part ote pam. So obviously carpel, sarpel, just calyx, corolla, hebur bad dilu. Karon hegita to accessory holes hoy, no? We are talking about what? Androecium and gynoecium. So the question is, male gamete lagibo, female gamete lagibo. Jodi sexual reproduction hobo lage. Male gamete kot paba? Male part of the plant dot paba. Male part ki hoy? Stamen. Stamen or kintu duta part. Anther or filament. So male gamete kot pam? Anther or pam? Ne filament or pam? Anther or pam? Anther boli kole, it is a huge structure. Right? What comprise of an anther? Obviously different types of cells. Anther to TS korile ki dekha paba? Cells he to dekha paba, no? Yes. So ultimately, where will you find the male gamete? Male gamete, pollen sac, ne pollen grain. Pollen sac. Pollen sac is a bag. Sac mane bag. Hey bag to bhitor ki thakibo? Pollen thakibo. Pollen to bhitor ki thakibo? Pollen to male gamete hoy, ne pollen eta spore hoy. Pollen eta spore hoy, microspore hoy no? So hey spore to ultimately ki koribo? Spore, or you can consider it as a single cell. Jikunu eta cell, according to cell theory you all have studied, no? Ki thake division, divide koribo. So pollen grain to first ki thakibo? Eta cell hobo. Hey cell or prai to structure to form koribo. Hey single cell to a divide kori ultimately ki form koribo? Male gametes form koribo. So where will you find the male gametes? Inside the pollen grain. Is the point clear? So pollen grain to bhitor male gametes sahibo. The next question that we will study, in case of angiosperms, male gamete keta thake? Male gamete duta thake. Is the point clear? Similarly, in case of the female part also, the female gamete would be called as ki? Egg. Where will you find the egg? Ovule or bhitor? Ovule to bhitor ki thakibo? পিছত আমি পঢ়িম যেহেতু এইটো পোর্শন পঢ়া নাই তোমালকে আগতে ইয়াতে আমি পঢ়িব লাগিব উইল আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড এজ অফ নাও হোয়াট উই আর টকিং অ্যাবাউট ইজ সেক্সুয়াল রিপ্রোডাকশনৰ কাৰণে গ্যামেটস লাগিব মেল গ্যামেট লাগিব ফিমেল গ্যামেট লাগিব মেল গ্যামেট ক'ত পাম পোলেন গ্ৰেইনত কেইটা মেল গ্যামেট আছে দুটা মেল গ্যামেটস আছে ইজ আ পইণ্ট ক্লিয়াৰ এতিয়া আমি কি চাব লাগিব ফাৰ্ষ্ট উই হেভ টু ষ্টাডি যে এন্থাৰৰ ভিতৰত পোলেন গ্ৰেইনটো কেনেকৈ ডেভেলপ কৰিলে এণ্ড নেক্সট পাৰ্ট ডেট উই হেভ টু ষ্টাডি ইজ পোলেন গ্ৰেইনত গ্যামেটটো কেনেকৈ ফৰ্ম কৰিলে গোটেই প্ৰচেছটো জানিব লাগিব ন So what you will do is to talk about the process of reproduction. Pollen sac or bhitor theke pollen sac to anther bhitor theke right আর pollen sac আর এটা নাম কি হবো microsporogenesis অলপ আগতে anther দেখাইছিল ন তাৰ ভিতৰত এটা ঘৰ দেখাইছিল ঘৰটোৰ ভিতৰত স্পোৰ্স আছে সেই ঘৰটোৰ নাম আমি pollen sac-ও ক'ব পাৰো microsporogenesis-ও ক'ব পাৰো ঠিক আছে microsporogenesis ভিতৰত pollen grains আহিব pollen grains-ও ক'ব পাৰো microspores-ও ক'ব পাৰো it's the same thing right The next topic that we will discuss is we'll be studying about the anther. Why we are studying about the anther? Because obviously we are in need of the male gamete. Anther is nothing but a collection of cells. Tatnu keneke pollen grains to develop korile. What we'll have to do is we have to study the structure of the anther. Pollen grain ba pollen sac to চাবলে হলে তুমি ক'ত চাবা এন্থাৰতে চাবা এন্থাৰটোত কেনেকৈ চাবা ইউ হ্যাভ টু গো ফৰ আ TS yes or no right যিকোনো এটা বস্তু anatomical study কৰিব লাগিলে either you have to go for a TS or you have to go for a LS right ৰুটৰ anatomy টো কেনেকুৱা go for a TS right এন্থাৰৰ ভিতৰত কেনেকৈ pollen grain টো ডেভেলপ কৰিছে আমি ষ্টাডি কৰিব লাগিলে এন্থাৰটো ফালিব লাগিব নালাগে so what we are doing is we are taking a young anther and we are going for a TS এতিয়া চোৱাচোন এইখিনি লিখাখিনি বাৰ মই লিখিম অলপ পিছত so আমি কি কৈছিলো we have talked about this we have talked about this condition as a common condition right yeah etu jodi anther part hoy anther bhitor ki ase microsporangium ba pollen sac tu ase ei bostu tu sabole hole ami yate TS koribo lagibo na lage right TS koribo lagibo when we go for a TS of this ami kenuka ta structure dekha pam enuka structure ta dekha pam ekdom precisely enuka nohoy aru jihetu dithecous condition no eblak moi pisot akai dim ha eta akibo na lage এনেকুৱা দেখাব এনেকুৱা কিহৰ কাৰণে বাইলবড কন্ডিশন দেখা পাইছো কাৰণ এটো কি আছে বাইলবড কন্ডিশন আছে ন যদি তুমি এই গুটেখিনি কাটা তেতিয়াহলে যদি গুটেখিনি কাটা এনেকুৱা এটা লোবড স্ট্ৰাকচাৰ দেখা পাবা নোপোৱা সো যেতিয়া আমি এটা এন্থাৰ TS কৰো we observe a structure like this right এই স্ট্ৰাকচাৰটোৰ ভিতৰত আমি কি দেখা পাম সেলস যিকোনো TS কৰিলে কি দেখা পাম কালেকশন অফ সেলস অর টিস্যুজ right so what you will see cells dekha paba sob cells eke type niki jete TS korile ami ki dekha pao a collection of cells or collection of tissues whatever you say right next is tissues ba cells bila gute structure tot eke type thakibo ne beleg type thakibo question to buzi paisa nai jetia jikunu eta portion or TS kora ami microscope or tolot jetia section to sao tar ami ki dekha pao collection of cells right eta jodi ৰুটৰ যদি TS কৰা TS কৰিলে আমি এটা ৰাউন্ড স্ট্ৰাকচাৰ দেখা পাও না পাও তাতে আমি এইবিলাক টিস্যুজ কোৱা সেলস কোৱা একচুয়ালি টিস্যুজে এনেকে দেখা পাও না পাও ৰাইট এতিয়া গুটেইখিনি এখিনি বস্তুটো হলো হ'ব নোৱাৰে ৰাইট ইয়াতোটো আমি সেলস আছে সো দা ফার্স্ট কোয়েশ্চন যে যেতিয়া TS কৰা তেতে একে টাইপ অফ সেলস দেখা পোৱা নে বেলেগ টাইপস অফ দেখা পোৱা বেলেগ দেখাবো সো বেলেগ দেখা পালে আউটারমোস্ট লেয়ার তো কি বুলি কয় রিমেম্বার দিস ওয়ার্ডস রাইট সো TS কৰিলে স্পেশালি স্টেম রুটৰ তোমালকে এনাটমিত পঢ়িছা কি পঢ়িছা এনেকে তুমি দেখা পাইছিলা রাইট আউটারমোস্ট কি বুলি কয় এপিডার্মিস ইনার টু এপিডার্মিস কর্টেক্স ইনার টু কর্টেক্স এন্ডোডার্মিস ইনার টু এন্ডোডার্মিস pericycle or inner to pericycle you will be observing the vascular bundles right so root stem or jetia tumi anatomy kora you see a collection like this anthero jetia anatomy koro titiao tumi collection of cells e dekha pam right the outermost layer of cell would be called as ekin loke clear hoise ne right inner to epidermis gutekhini aka nai ha inner to epidermis jimanbur cells dekha paba as a whole from the ki boli kobo ki pori aso we are studying the structure of anther ro ki korilu TS korile ki dekha palu enuka eta lobed structure dekha paisu ei lobe structure to outermost cells bilakok ki boli kom epidermis inner to epidermis ekhini dhora epidermis hol inner to epidermis jimanbur cells thake tak ami ki boli kom archisporial cells boli kom ba archisporial layer kom whatever is the point clear concept to buzi paiso ei yate ultimately ki hobo pollen sac bilak develop koribo so what we are studying is yate pollen sac to keneke develop korile কোনে ফর্ম কৰিব প্ৰথমতে কি আছিল সেলস আছিল ন কোনোবা এটা সেল মডিফাই হৈ পেলাই মাইক্ৰোস্পোৰেঞ্জিয়াম ফর্ম কৰিব নকৰে তুমি TS কৰিলা TS কৰি পেলাই কিছুমান সেলস দেখিলা কিন্তু আমি কি জানো এন্থাৰৰ ভিতৰত কি আছে পোলেন স্যাক আছে সেই পোলেন স্যাকটো কোনে ফর্ম কৰিব এন্থাৰৰ ভিতৰত থকা সেলটোৱে কনভাৰ্ট হৈ যাব না যায় Yes or no? All of a sudden, নতুন বস্তু এটা আহি পেলাই সোমাই যাবতো নোৱাৰিব। So এন্থাৰৰ ভিতৰত যোনখিনি cells আছে, তাতে সেই cells বিলাকে divide and redivide কৰি পেলাই কিছুমান special cells ultimately will get converted into the pollen sac. Is the point clear? Right? So এইখিনি portion আমি লিখি লওঁ, then it will become clearer. Okay, আমি কি লিখিছিলো? TS of a young anther, no? বা structure. Right? এইখিনি বুজি পালো ন? So প্ৰথমতে epidermis, তাৰপিছত archisporium পাম। Archisporium কি হয়? As of now we understand the collection of cells that lies inner to the epidermis as a whole is called as archisporium. আমি এন্থাৰটো কিয় স্ট্ৰাকচাৰ বা এন্থাৰটো কিয় কাটিছো so that we can study যে pollen sac কেনেকৈ ফৰ্ম কৰিছে, right? So this is the heading, তাত লিখা নোটটো লিখি লওঁ। So we are studying the structure of an anther. To study the structure of an anther or anatomical structure of the anther, we go for a TS. Jetia ami TS koru, we see a structure like this, a lobed structure. Keita lobe dekha paisu? We remember the word called as tetrasporangiates, so we see something like this. In this, what we see, the outer layer of cells, ki boli koi? Epidermis. Below to epidermis, jimanbur cells as eta ki boli koiso archisporial. However, we have used another word. Swasun? Sentence to porisa? Sentence to swa? Whenever we go for a TS of an anther, we see a homogeneous mass of meristematic cells. Homogeneous mane eke type. Gutei cells bur almost eke, right? Meristematic cells mane cells bilak kiman two types no? Eta hol meristematic, eta hol permanent. What is the difference? One will keep on dividing, one will not divide. Right? Generally, permanent cells kun bilak. Jun bilak cells divide no kore, eta kami ki boli ko permanent. Kido, however, we have an exception. Sometimes certain permanent tissues also divide. Right? It is all exception. There is secondary growth boli kiba ta bostu khunisa, secondary growth of a plant boli ase anatomy, but that portion has been omitted, so we are not going to study. Right? Nalagyo. Kinde adult plant ki hoy je hokot hoi jay no as time passes by. So especially we are talking about the dicots. Adult am gos sabason jiman year par hoi jay no hokot hoi jay. Hokot hobo lagile tat ki lagibo cells lagibo no. So cells are increase korile he hokot hobo. He cells kune form koribo. Notun ke cells form kore ne kunba pre-existing cell etai divide koribo. Cell theory ami jano pre-existing cells e divide kore. So permanent cell etai ketia ba meristematic hoi pelai he divide kora arambho kore, and ultimately you get a collection of cells, and that process would be called as secondary growth. Aru he karone plants bilak ki hoy increase in thickness of girth hoy, right? But as of now, two types of cells, permanent meristematic tissue, meristematic and permanent. Basic difference, meristematic divide kore dim ono word, permanent cells divide no kore ki kore? Meristematic cells divide kore, permanent cells divide no kore ki kore? Grow kore. Grow to koriboi lagibo na, kodai horu hoi thakile hobo neki, te organism to dangore no hobo. Is the point clear? So understood, no? So we see a group of meristematic tissues june divide koribo. Outer layer is called as epidermis. Below the epidermis, the layer of cells. Hypodermis, epidermis or taller layer to kami ki boli ko hypodermis, and so we are using the word called as hypodermal. That hypodermal layer would have a special name, and the special name is archisporial layer. Buji paiso? Hol? Next point. গোটেই ডায়াগ্ৰামটো আঁকা নাই চোৱাচোন বুজি পাইছা নাই গোটেইখিনি আঁকি থাকিব নালাগেও চাৰিটা লবৰ একেটাই হ'ব Just read the line and see the diagram. TS কৰিলো TS কৰোতে cells দেখা পালো outer layer of cells কি কৈছে epidermis inner side কি আছিলে archisporial layer আছিলে archisporial layer consists of a single cell and many cells out of all the cells 4 cells in each lobe will become big right and that special cell that became prominent and big is called as So ultimately archisporial cell কেইটা ফর্ম কৰিলে চাৰিটা archisporial layerত এটা cell ডাঙৰ হৈ গল বা prominent হৈ গল তাক আমি কি বুলি কৈছো archisporial cell what will happen to the archisporial cell it will divide এটা cell divide কৰি পেলাই কেইটা cell form কৰে দুটা so this archisporial cell will also divide and form two cells parietal cell sporogenous cell is the point clear right কোনে form কৰিলে archisporial cell divide কৰি কেইটা cell form কৰিলে দুটা but here what you need to remember question ahe archisporial cell le keneke divide kore we have two words associated with division anticlinal division or periclinal division right so anticlinal division is right angle to the cell wall periclinal is parallel to the cell wall we are talking about what plant cells so protective plant cell or cell wall thakibo na thake thakibo so if you are talking about archisporial cell taru to cell wall thakibo right so cell wall or parallel ta mane etu jodi cell hoy right archisporial cell hoy ar ektu dhora tar cell wall hoy cell wall or parallelly divide koribole eneke divide koribo lagibo na lage right so what we are talking about is if this is the archisporial cell ar etu jodi cell wall boli ami consider koru keneke divide koribo periclinal right so bhitor pine eta cell form koribo bahiror pine eta cell form koribo right a cell to jodi divide kori die eta bhitor pine eta bahiror pine hobo nohoy so we are using the word বুঝি পালো so inner mane ki towards this center outer mane ki towards the epidermis right So archisporial cell to divide kori keita cell form korile duta. So this is a process that would be seen in only a single cell or in all the 4 cells. All the 4 cells. So ultimately inner cell keita form korile 4ta, outer cell keita form korile 4ta. You want to go? Where do you have the physics tuition? Okay. So every day you have, or Monday and Thursday. So every Thursday you'll be missing some portion of the lecture. Ki koriba? Video lecture saba, right? Video lecture saba, sabe next Thursday, because I think you have got the routine, no? Routine paisa, botany mato eta class thake. Right? Second year of botany, since the portion is less, we'll just be having 1 class per week. So it's only on Thursday. Right? So Thursdays you have to go always. 15 minutes miss. So then it's your part, okay? So poriba next Thursday, remaining portion of doubts lo eliba. Okay? Go. Ekini hol? Okay, next. তোমালোকে কন্টিনিউ কৰিব পাৰে য'ত পেৰাইটেল সেল লিখিছিলা ন চাৰ্টখন এইটো লিখিছিলা ন চাৰ্টখন কন্টিনিউ কৰিবা আৰু ইয়াতে আছিলে ইনাৰ প্ৰাইমেৰী স্পোৰোজেনাছ cell. Please go. Sexual reproduction of gamete, right? We are talking about the male part of the plant. We'll be talking about how is the male gamete formed. Male gamete ko thakibo, pollen grain or thakibo. Pollen grain ko thakibo, anther or pitter thakibo. Or to be precise, it will be inside the pollen sac. Pollen sac ko thakibo, anther thakibo. So pollen sac to pothamate develop koribo lagibo. Tar pisothe pollen grain to form koribo, right? So we are studying about the development of the anther, right? So young anther ata loiso. Okay, again you can ask the mature anther eta kior lewana. My first thought heading ki likhisilo. We have taken a TS of a young anther and not a TS of a mature anther. What is the difference between a young anther and a mature anther? Young anther is a TS koriba process of formation of the pollen sac ami gom pam. মেচিয়ৰ্ড এন্থাৰ এটা যদি টিএছ কৰা অলৰেডিটো পলেন চেক ফৰ্মেই কৰি থাকিব তাতে তো আমি কেনেকৈ ফৰ্ম কৰিলে বস্তুটো যদি জানিব লাগে অবভিয়াছলি উইল হেভ টু ষ্টাডি দ্য য়াং এন্থাৰ ৰাইট অ'কে চ' আই থিংক আপ টিল হিয়াৰ হোৱাট উই হেভ ষ্টাডিড যে এন্থাৰ পঢ়িলোঁ এন্থাৰটো কি হয় উই আণ্ডাৰষ্টেণ্ড এন্থাৰ্ছ কেনেকুৱা উই আণ্ডাৰষ্টুড ডাইথিকাছ তাত কি কৰিলোঁ টিএছ কৰিলোঁ টিএছ কৰোঁতে আমি কেনেকুৱা ষ্ট্ৰাকচাৰ দেখিলোঁ চাৰ্কুলাৰ নে লোব ষ্ট্ৰাকচাৰ দেখিলোঁ আউটাৰ লেয়াৰ অফ চেলছক কি বুলি কৈছিলোঁ এপিডাৰ্মিছ উইথ ইনাৰ টু এপিডাৰ্মিছ আৰ্কিস্পৰিয়েল এটা চেল তাতে ডাঙৰ হ'ব তাক কি বুলি ক'ম আৰ্কিস্পৰিয়েল চেল ডিভাইড কৰিব কি ফৰ্ম কৰিব পেৰাইটেল চেল আৰু স্পৰোজেনাছ চেল ইজ দ্য পইণ্ট ক্লিয়াৰ অ'কে চ' আৰ্কিস্পৰিয়েল চেল ছিংগল চেল নে কালেকশ্যন অফ চেলছ ছিংগল চেল এইটো চেলে ডিভাইড কৰি পেলাই এইটো আৰ্কিস্পৰিয়েল চেল ছিংগল চেল আৰ্কিস্পৰিয়েল চেল ডিভাইড কৰি পেলাই দুটা চেল ফৰ্ম কৰিব এই দুটা চেল পেৰাইটেল চেল ইজ আ কালেকশ্যন অফ চেলছ নে ছিংগল চেল স্পৰোজেনাছ চেল কালেকশ্যন অফ চেলছ নে ছিংগল চেল চ' এটা চেলে ডিভাইড কৰি দুটা চেল ফৰ্ম কৰিলে এই চেলকেইটাইওতো ডিভাইড কৰিব য়েছ অৰ ন' চ' পেৰাইটেল চেলে ডিভাইড কৰি পেলাই কি ফৰ্ম কৰিব বহুত চেলছ ফৰ্ম কৰিব ৰাইট বহুত right layers of cells form koribo they will be dividing ki anticlinal periclinal jetia all sides or pra divide kore te tahale ki form koribo a mass of cells form koribo right and ultimately a layers bilake they will be forming the pollen sac wall jetia pollen sac thakibo tar to sac or boundary ekhono thakibo no boundary khon single layered ne multiple layered anther bhitor pollen sac ase pollen sac or pollen sac wall ase wall is made up of a single layer it is made up of many layers how many layers 2 to 6 layers clear similarly sporogenous cell to divide koribo sporogenous cell to divide kori pele bahut bur cells form koribo a collection of cells would be called as ki cells or collection ki boli koy tissues right so sporogenous cell was a single cell divide and redivide to form a group of cells and they would be called as ki sporogenous tissues later we will see je ihote ki form koribo wallখন right আর তার ভিতৰত কি থাকিব আমি যেটি মনত আছে আমি এনেকে এটা আঁকিছিলো ন like this yes or no so this was the parietal so this will be dividing and redividing and forming layers of cells this cell would ultimately be forming group of cells right so ইয়াতে কি ডেভেলপ কৰিব pollen grains বিলাক ইয়াত ডেভেলপ কৰিব আৰু pollen grains এই গুটেই সেকটো কভাৰটো কোনে ফৰ্ম কৰিব পেৰাইটেল চেল এইখিনিলৈকে কনসেপ্ট ক্লিয়াৰ এইখিনি আমি কি পঢ়িছিলে এন্থাৰ আৰ্কিস্পৰিয়েল চেল পঢ়িলো আৰ্কিস্পৰিয়েল চেলে কেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ ডিভিজন কৰিলে পেৰিক্লিনেল ৰাইট দুটা চেল ফৰ্ম কৰিলে তাৰ মানে এইটো চেলে ultimately দুটা সেল ফর্ম করিলে এটো সেলেও ডিভাইড করব এটো সেলেও ডিভাইড করব এটো কি সেল প্যারাইটাল সেল এটো কি সেল স্পোরোজেনাস সেলে ডিভাইড করে এটো একটা সিঙ্গল সেল ন ডিভাইড কৰি বহুত বোৰ সেলস ফর্ম কৰিব নকৰে এই গুটে সেলস বিলাকক আমি কি বুলি কম স্পোরোজেনাস টিস্যুস বুলি কম এই বাহিৰত থকা প্যারাইটাল সেলটিও তো ডিভাইড কৰি পেলাই কি ফর্ম কৰিব এই স্পোরোজেনাস টিস্যুসৰ ইন এন্ড अराउंड কি কৰিব কভারিং খন ফর্ম কৰিব দ্যাট কভারিং would be called as covering form koribo car covering sporogenous tissues or covering khini form koribo right sporogenous tissues e ami pisot porim the sporogenous tissues bilage ultimately pollen grains form koribo right karon sac eta hobo lagibo sacot kisuman tissues thakibo libo hey tissues bilake to pollen grains form koribo right so pollen grains form koribole etialake ami porhai nai we have just started studying about the sac to kune form korise sac consists of what sac consists of those tissues and the covering who form the covering the parietal আৰু inner to the parietal or inner to the covering collection of cells hey cells kini ki boli koiso sporogenous cells they will get converted to hekini পঢ়িম পিছত right 1 second. You can continue the chart or you can start writing it, as a new heading. Now what we are going to discuss is, we knew that the parietal cell will divide and form layers. Hey, layers bilakor naam bilak janibo laibo. What is the outermost layer? Eta cell asile. This cell will ultimately form layers of cells. Right? So A layers will kimanta layer 2 to 6. So you have to know what is the outermost layer called as, what is the innermost layer called as. So we will be studying about the sac wall now. Right? So jedi chart khonot likhibole digdari hoise, ene as a whole notun ke heading kora. Periphery word বুজি পাও? Periphery, দূৰত থাকাটো, right? Towards the inner. Periphery is outer side.